and we've had an open internet. For those of you that don't know what network neutrality is, it's a principle proposed for user access networks participating in the internet that advocates no restrictions by internet service providers and government on content, sites, platforms, on the kinds of equipment that may be attached, and no restrictions on the modes of communication allowed. At some point, these trade groups and entertainment companies, my prediction is, are going to convince politicians to pass laws to allow internet filtering. And at that point, we're in big trouble. Their argument's going to be that these networks are being used to traffic stolen goods and that they need them shut down. I would like this to not be the future, but every time we as a country sort of get into an issue, insane laws are passed. If you look at life 25 years ago as opposed to now, every day more and more rules get passed in this country. More and more laws get passed in this country. I don't think any of us will ever be able to take a tube of toothpaste on a plane again. We're heading to a world of more restrictions and not less. And people always say, you know, the people will rise up. They're not going to stand for this kind of stuff. Well, look at robotic cameras. Every town in America is installing these things to issue tickets. And what we should be doing is taking them out from a distance with a pellet gun. But people tend to give up a lot for convenience. Every one of us in this room probably carries some form of mobile phone. The trade-off that you've got with that is that the police can triangulate your position at any time. And there's all sorts of really exciting server logs that are kept that show where you were when, that can get subpoenaed in case you have done something wrong. So my prediction is that this Wild West of the internet could very well get clamped down on and regulated. The more these entertainment companies get involved buying ISPs, the cable companies are already looking to monitor what you're doing online and try to keep you from doing supposed bad things. Is this going to be the death of network neutrality? These telecom and entertainment companies want to privatize the net so badly. They want to have unregulated pricing power. And if you look at the FCC, you know, will they allow this? The FCC has rubber-stamped more nonsense in the last 20 years. It is disgusting. One of the ones that, my favorite, was they handed out licenses to 2 radio companies and said, you guys are going to be 2 satellite radio companies, and in order for you to get this spectrum, you can't merge ever. And they're like, awesome. And so they run out, and XM and Sirius launched. And then they came back a few years later to the FCC and said, oh, we're sorry, we spent all our money giving it to Major League Baseball and football so that we could run their shit games. You've got to let us merge. And so the FCC said, oh, we're sorry that you failed in business. Of course we'll let you create a monopoly. And so they merged. And I had a show, a national show on Opie and Anthony's channel. And Sirius came in and said, guys, and this was a bunch of entertainment assholes. They goes, guys, love the show. A little bit of a problem. We're cutting your pay by 75%. Wow, thanks a lot. See you later. Won't be providing content for your platform anymore. The FCC has rubber-stamped a lot of horrible stuff, and I could see them allowing broadband providers to not let you connect to certain sites. It's absolutely feasible. How do we keep this future from happening? We've got to support newspapers and magazines. Subscribe to Make. Subscribe to 2600. You know, support public radio. WikiLeaks. I don't know if you read the article in the New Yorker about WikiLeaks, but it was outstanding. The journalist that ran around with them while they were putting this video together was absolutely amazing. And organizations like that, who went through a lot of steps that a journalist is supposed to go through, vetting material, getting things right, those kind of organizations need to be supported. And finally, you know, support people that make content you enjoy, or it may not be around for much longer. You know, we take a lot of this stuff for granted, but in the discussion over content, it's always the, you know, the big companies, the big movie companies, but it's affecting the small guy. It's affecting 2600, and it could affect this community. So keep supporting this community, and I'll take questions from anybody about video games.
Hello?
Yes.
So earlier you talked about a social micropayment system that would sort of make it convenient for consumers to support a lot of content providers that are online. There's one that is almost exactly what you described called Flattr, F-L-A-T-T-R. And basically, you put a badge on your site, and anyone who has a Flattr account can just like do a thumbs up, and then they pay Flattr a monthly fee that they set themselves, and it gets distributed to all the sites equally. And it's pretty straightforward. I haven't looked at their privacy policy or anything like that, so I don't know how evil they are, but...
Well, it sounds awesome, but there needs to be some kind of top-down thing that happens where all the newspapers get together and say, okay, we're all going in on this, we're all going to put our content behind this paywall and have this micropayment system. The problem with that is that somebody would probably file an antitrust suit. So I know one of the creators of The Wire went in front of Congress and recently and begged them and said, you guys have got to figure out a way to fund newspapers because they are in big trouble. And this idea of that news is and always should be free is killing them. Next.
We now have a culture from the last 20 years where all opinions are essentially treated as if they are equal. I teach math. I had a kid tell me that the answer to a problem was X. I responded, I don't think so.
I love X, by the way.
And I do too, actually. Y is almost as good. My response was, I don't think so. And he argued with me about the answer to a problem, as in insisting I had to be wrong, and even my answer book had to be wrong, because his opinion was equally valid. I don't know if there's a question here, but you want to comment?
I don't know if any of you are familiar with the term millennials. Some interesting reading online about millennials. There's a generation that has come up that is this constantly connected generation that expects, you know, and has always had everything for free, so why should you pay for anything? But they're getting out of college, which was funded by mommy and daddy. They've been coddled their entire life. You know, they had a mobile phone since they were 2. And there's all these articles about how horribly they're doing in the workplace because they will literally, they've been so coddled, they'll have their mom call their manager. And I've managed people and managed production teams, and you've really got to weed out the millennials because they're like, you know, really, I can't work hard because I've got yoga. And it's like, obviously, you don't understand the entertainment industry. We're here to grind ourselves stupid to make this product. Next.
Thank you. Very much enjoyed your talk. Here's my question. We come together, and I can't remember the gentleman's name yesterday, but we come together in a room like this, and that's of the comment that he made was virtual communities are great, but you know, there's nothing like getting together face to face and, you know, really hashing stuff out. Net neutrality, it's a big grand concept. It means different things to different people, but I totally get what you're asking for here. And at the same time, I feel like we need more. Like, I want to find a way, and I'm not sure what that is, to organize and bring this issue to the forefront of the American mindset that they are losing something. And it doesn't, not everybody's going to get it. But I'm just wondering what ways, and I don't know, again, whether there's a question in here either, but I just want to put this out to the room. What ways can we organize that aren't just supporting the content we love, which I totally agree with, to really, to really drive this point home? Because as you say, it's almost, sadly, you sit here pessimistically and say it's a fait accompli. They're going to do it. And I'm like, no. So...
Yeah, I always try to send money to as many organizations like the EFF and folks like that I can, hoping that somebody else has the time to fight these issues. It's very difficult as an activist not to be a paycheck activist, where you're just like, all right, here's $20, don't kill any more whales. But as I was a journalist for many years, and especially covering stuff like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and all that, I think there's a point where sometimes we as a sort of liberal electronic activist people can go a bit too far. I will say, perfect example, like 2600. Sales of this magazine are down considerably, while people are scanning it in and putting it up on BitTorrent. Sharing information is awesome, but if the source of that information goes out of business, we're all screwed, and we lose a lot. And I don't know if we should get some posses together and go get these guys. What can you really do about the pirating community? And they're not just pirating movies, they're pirating magazines. Any magazine that you want is scanned in and available for free online. So of course, why would you pay for it? Is what a lot of people say. And again, like the Boing Boing thing, I love them to death, but when they're raising that cheer for the Pirate Bay, it's like, no, dude, actually a lot of people bust their ass to make magazines like 2600 or games like Grand Theft Auto or whatever. That's what they do. That's their art, and they should get paid for it. And, you rooting them on, in my mind, is kind of weak. Pirates are not online. Pirates wear shitty Adidas shirts and shoot from little boats outside of Somalia. They are the worst dressed pirates ever. My God. Dude, get an earring or some shit. Let's... Come on. Next.
Okay, so first, just a general statement. I find it really interesting that newspapers and TV news channels now are both forms of journalism that are, sort of forced to transition to this new medium, the internet. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on what you felt was, or if they have different charges on the internet, in terms of...
What do you mean different charges?
What's the mission of their website? Are they both going after the same audience because they're both journalism, or...
No, it's a very different audience. TV news executives sit around and segment up the population, and then they filter their news stories based on that. Every news channel had a different name for the Iraq War that was branded and trademarked. They flash across that horrible graphic at the bottom of the screen. Mm-hmm. So, but one of the things that I love about trying to fill up this 24-hour TV cable news cycle is when you have two talking heads and they will show a screen and they're like, this website's reporting something.
Yeah, the iReport.
And then
really...
they're moving a mouse around and surfing the internet for you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, actually, I don't need you to make stupid comments while I surf the net. I can do that myself. you can, focus on interesting stories like, is baloney going to kill your children?